Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for episode 99, drawing ever closer to that big old milestone of 100. But for the immediate moment, it is time for, something we've not done in a while. The good old Bristol Night Race. I know it's called Northern Isle Speedway. I don't care. I'm calling it Bristol. Because that is literally what it is. It's just a faster Bristol. And admittedly, it's only really faster because the vehicles we're driving in this race are not bricks, like NASCARs tend to be. But, you know, most people know the shtick with short track racing. There's bound to be some drama going on here. Somebody's gonna get moved, somebody's gonna get salty, somebody will probably be put in the wall. It's just kind of how these tracks tend to go. But, well, let's just jump into it and find out for ourselves, shall we? And the Bristol Night Race is away, and well, you don't really have a choice but to do a rolling start here, so there is no grid at this track. Grip is always a bit of a struggle at this circuit. A lot of people will just kind of gas it up too early and slide towards the outside wall helplessly. You see that very often. 32 laps here, which admittedly, with about 15 seconds a lap, is still going to end up with being an 8-minute race, which is about the usual for Challenge Series. And of course, we are on board with none other than Tyler McIntosh, Mr. Bristol himself. He practically makes a second home out of this venue. Even though this is no stock car, God. Oh. Even though this is no stock car, McIntosh is still so used to this place, he could probably drive it with his eyes closed in an ice cream van. Okay. And he's getting absolutely super walled by Katie Rose in the other 8th gen Corvettes. Clearly not satisfied by wrecking one last week, has to go for the other now? Is that the idea here? Tyler walled himself there. I kind of got confused by the camera angle because it wasn't super helpful. Oh, more contact into the wall. The horn of disapproval has been sounded. Thrasher just kind of gets out of the way. Overtakes Ice, Ayase. Out there's a bumper, as they're being held up by Scarborough up there. Tyler forces his way by, sticks a bumper on the inside lane, and gets clear of the C8 Corvette. But is now stuck behind, no, not quite stuck behind Jake anymore, but getting used up again by Katie nonetheless. Into the wall goes the Corvette for a third time, courtesy of the Demon Sports driver. I figured the tempers would start flaring towards the end of the race, not the first third. Oh, now both Corvettes are in the wall. I think Tyler's starting to put his bumper to this one too, trying to get it out of here. Jake's not helping Tyler achieve that by kind of sitting in his lane there, but I mean, what can you really do? Get the better exit on the Corvette. That doesn't help. On Rose, still not able to get away. They have been battling like this for almost 10 laps now. Tyler finally sneaks through, Jake's obstruction helping him rather than harming him. But can he get away? As he now just caught up behind another two-car battle featuring one of his teammates, Keith Kilgore and then Stephanie Kaiser, whom he's already passed. Meanwhile, up at the front, it's, well, not very entertaining. We got Logan right behind his other teammate, Buck Angelos, and I'm just kind of existing behind them. Nittery is lighting up the front tires behind me. And now that Tyler's free from the reign of terror that is Katie Rose, he's able to make his way up the field as projected. Yeah, the grip is starting to wear out on the track as the sun goes down here, and it was hard to adapt to the car understeering and a lot of times even bottoming out, heading up towards the start-finish line. But Tyler was having no problem. He could find grip anywhere if he tried hard enough, especially here. Sort of gets his elbows out and forces Logan to back out, and that allows me to overtake him as well. Oh boy. Saved it. I about needed a new pair of underwear after watching that go on in front of me, that's for sure. Yeah, I got some bad, I got tight, as the NASCAR fanatics I want to say. Tyler will try the outside on the Hellcat this time, but he won't have enough momentum to get there. This time he'll get to its inside and get ahead, and also get my dad for good measure. My dad is also quite the Bristol connoisseur himself, although he prefers Richmond, but we can't really get that. Tries the outside, crosses Fidel Fabian. Tyler McIntosh is the new race leader. Admittedly, I'm surprised it took almost 3/4 of the race for that to happen. Got a battle for second. My dad just sneaks down the inside of Fidel Fabian. And behind that, I'm fighting for my life against another Dodge, kind of getting obstructed by the race leader's teammate, who's the first car to go a lap down, ironically. Obviously didn't teach him everything, did you, Tyler? I'm not the only person in the top 5 other than Tyler that didn't hit the wall there, but it didn't matter because I had to check up so much to avoid them after they did, that I lost all momentum anyway. Fidel got back ahead of my dad in the lap traffic chaos, and now looks like he may be there to stay. Oh, there's Sophia Meyer, his own JSR teammate, but he's got a lap. And he's not doing an amazing job of it. My dad is right back with Fidel Fabian. I'm in a Demon Sports sandwich, and it's not terribly comfortable, I must be honest. Knowing what they tried doing to Barbara last week. I was not a fan, but I decided the best way to not be in that sandwich is to pass them. And maybe try to do the same thing on my dad, who then kind of got tight and put me in the wall, so that was grand. I loved that. But not getting put in any walls now. Tyler McIntosh, perhaps as a matter of course, wins the Bristol night race. Fidel second. I ended up getting the better of my own dad, despite me absolutely hating this track, which I've gone on record of saying, but well, occasionally, I can hate something and still be good at it. And that is race 1 in the books. Demon Sport with a mostly decent run. 5-6-9 JSR with Fidel up there. Really, there was no dominant team here. Of course, I have to keep in mind, teams are going to play a much bigger role. It's more than just a name you put on your car and a group of people you practice with. As we get into the championships this season, that's actually going to have an impact on the well, it's going to have its own separate championship standings, I should say. It won't have an impact on the drivers' one, but it's going to be its own deal. And JSR was here in droves today with 4 different representatives taking the track. The same thing applies to Demon Sports. 3 of their 5 drivers are on the track. 3 of Urban Estates drivers are on the track. So teams are finally starting to kind of flock together as we get a few weeks into Season 3 here. There wasn't much to introduce for this one, so I just said forget the intros, we go straight into the race. The race being a 640 class event here from the Tokyo Expressway central south counterclockwise loop, or the Gemini layout, as it's been usually called. Originally there was just this thing that me and Thrasher called it, but that eventually just kind of spread to everybody else, especially after Gemini won here twice. And yet has not made a whole lot of success anywhere else except for here. But we are on board with the very aggressive Ellie Ayase. She sends it down the inside of a number of cars and finds herself in P10 after basically one sector of racetrack. There is a debuting vehicle in this race, which we'll briefly cover. Tuco de Santos, our first Colombian competitor, who is one of the two newest recruits into Black Stallion Motorsports in his old hot rod. Kind of provocative of Thomas O'Reilly, who's also in this race, but his hot rod's in the lower category than this one. Which means it has to be in 600, obviously, because this is 640, you can't get any lower. A little bit of contact between Ellie and Herbie there. By Herbie, I of course mean Jake. What a very quiet Bristol night race. Now it is a Tokyo night race. Well, Tokyo morning race, rather. Or was it a night race? I don't remember. I think it's a morning race. And part of the reason why there was such a lack of Mercury Racing presence at Bristol is because most of them were getting ready for this race, as every single Mercury Racing driver with a car in this class has brought it to bear today. Which means that there are, I believe, if I remember right, 7 drivers from the class in it. Haneo, who got damage on lap 1. Umi, and then the whole top 4 all of a sudden, as Mercury Racing is just kind of taking control of this race. And then we have the 4-car battle that's beginning behind them with Zhongling, Kagami, Jake, and Bobby Marshall for the top 5 spot, but the Mercury drivers are gonna kind of just pull away from that group. Ellie and Nozomi kind of working together, at least in the way of let's not try and pass each other until it's a little more convenient to battle for position. And then Kotori and Nico are running 1-2, basically bumper to bumper, a couple of seconds up the road from them. As we begin lap 3 of what is actually a night race, I have confirmed by looking at Nico's dashboard camera and seeing that the time was 5:06 when this race began. It's really hard to believe that the sun will be going down already. I don't know, her clock might be off. But it is going down anyway, and I can now tell that the track is darker than it was when we started. And most of the drivers have turned their headlights on since the race started, so that's another kind of telltale sign right there. Nico look for a move on her teammate. That's a no. And now the other two are slowly approaching the battle. I don't know, is this really a battle? I'm not really sure what counts. They've not swapped positions yet, but Nico literally couldn't be any closer to Kotori's car without being able to literally reach out and touch it. Here's Ellie! Thank you, camera. You know, the camera synced up with me saying that almost perfectly. Nozomi is struggling to get the rest of the way there, while Ellie is already on the back of them. Oh, now Nico's gonna go for a move. Never mind, that's a dummy. Or is she? Nope, she's going down there now. She's gotten to the inside of the RX-7. Who wins the traction race? That'll be Kotori. Well, really, it was clearly Ellie. But Nico kind of sat on the line she wanted to take to pass. So, around the outside through the S's. Literally over top of their local station, the Kondo station, and into second place. Does she get them both? No, Kotori outbrakes the Porsche with some ease. But the traction game comes back. The drag race as we head over the start-finish line to begin the final lap. But I think Ellie has gotten this lead to herself now. And Nozomi really just could not stay with this group. Quite a debut for DeSantos, though, as he finds himself in 6th place after starting in the bottom 5 of the grid, I believe. And he's looking for 5th against Noir, and he will get it. That Roadster is supercharged like nobody's business. 163 is really fast for this category, by the way. If that wasn't obvious, that's not a speed you normally reach at that corner. Man, poor Yo didn't even get damage in this race. Her GTO is just that far off the pace, and I honestly can't understand why it is. Does she just not like this track, maybe? I don't know. It seems to be down on power, but other GTOs have been fine in this category, so I'm not sure I understand what the problem is. The top 3 are still very close. It's way too close. Nico goes back down the inside. Attempt number 2 at Kotori. And this time they're about dead even in that traction game, as it were. Almost making slight contact heading up the hill. Well, in a race that certainly solidified Mercury as a unit, Ellie Ayase is going to cross the line in 1st, Nico 2nd, Kotori 3rd, and Nozomi a somewhat close 4th. Tuco comes in 5th in his debut, and with more time, probably had the pace to win the race, looking at that fastest lap, just shy of the 2-minute 2 mark. But a Mercury 1, 2, 3, 4... 11, 19, so, I mean, by no means perfect, but 4 out of 6 cars in a row running 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's kind of hard to argue with that one. So I'm not even going to bother arguing it or questioning it. I'm just going to take us straight to race 3. The midway point of this episode takes us to Sardinia Windmills, so obviously it's a dirt division race. It couldn't be anything else. And this was originally going to be a 20-car grid, but well, I believe one driver had a mechanical problem before they could even make it to the grid. I want to believe that was Melissa Weiss, because her luck can just never turn around. It was some Toyota, but I don't remember what one. It was either Melissa Weiss or Kazuma Hanamura. And then Nico would have been here in her Yaris, but transportation complications after the race in Tokyo meant that she could not hope to get here in time. And so now we are here with an 18-car race. That's still more than enough for a dirt division race, minimum of 16. So let's get into that race. We are away for the race, and I was correct, it is Melissa Weiss who had to back out for mechanical problems, because kind of Kazuma Hanamura is right there in his own Celica. We are on board with the prolific Tetsuya Harada in his 22B. All the way on the outside he goes, but that's the best way to avoid the lap 1 traffic, as it would appear. But also avoid traction by the looks of it. Like, oh my god. He was hanging that rear bumper out there. Gets a little bit sent by my dad and by Thrasher, but he's fine on exit. Actually gets into the side of Ashhart on exit instead. Goes down the inside of everyone's favorite van driver. Can't quite get it done there though, but he's going to take it 3 wide with the van. And his teammate Utsuki. Swing around the outside of Kotexa, not even aware, I don't think, that his buddy Sammy was there, ahead of the Rally Chicken. It's been quite a productive lap despite a slow beginning. Up to 5th place after just 1 circuit. Oh, that's too much angle! That's a wall. Does keep it going the right way, which will minimize the losses, but that's still, no, 3 losses. Kind of a rare mistake for a driver like him. Oh, doors Kotexa. He's struggling to get back into his rhythm after that, clearly, based on that contact. Gonna get ahead now of the truck, probably. Nearly got into the back of Sammy, his teammate there. Yeah, I don't know how much they'll be around on road racing, but I fully expect DPT to be pretty much running the show when it comes to dirt. What the heck is Sammy doing out there? There's a madness. They were 4 wide for a second there, and the 2 Subis, in particular my dad, took full advantage of that. I think Sammy might have missed the turn-in a little bit. Just a hunch. Oh, Futaba, I think, just may have walled Harada a little bit there. But finding herself in a Subaru sandwich, Futaba just kind of has to, well, back off. Well, then again, so did Tetsuya. So nothing really nothing of matter happening there, and apparently nothing of English happening there. Double overtake on the outside. Riho and Noir are too busy with each other, not noticing that Harada was making a break for it on the far outside lane. 2 wide with Morris, clear on exit. And now hunt down Dakota Kingsley, who's quite a distance away. Harada has just about caught Kingsley now. It's just a matter of securing the move, and the race will probably be in hand for the Impreza driver. In the background, Riho finally cleared Colin Morris, and Noir and Kotexa are looking to do the same. But a lap and a half worth of racing to go. This is going to maybe be a part where Harada struggles, as that truck is better in a straight line. But in that high-speed corner, we're seeing the difference in weight come into play. Can Tetsuya get that stopped? Nope, Dakota's going to have the preferred line on the inside, but that may not matter. Now that's the inside, and the lighter, more pertinent Impreza, I don't think that's the word to use there, finally clear into the race lead as we are about to begin the final lap of the race. Up, tags the wall a little bit as he crosses the line, but still going the right way, and that's basically what matters in these cars. You don't really have to be going cleanly, just to go forwards. Whoa, you don't see very often Colin Morris losing his nerve, but Kotexa just kind of hung around on his back bumper until eventually the Focus driver just cracked. And then all it took was Kotexa getting a bumper, and then everything else alongside, and he moved ahead into fourth place with that one. So it looks like it's going to be Tetsuya Harada who leads the pickup truck Crusades of second, third, and fourth. Survives the jump. Victory for the Subaru, followed by literally 3 trucks in a row. And then our pole sitter Colin Morris, who could only convert 5th. Due to, well, clearly a couple of mistakes and just a lack of horsepower. But Harada clearly had a much better day than his teammates, although they weren't really out in full force. 1:9:14 for DPT, and they were the only team that really had multiple drivers on the track. A lot of drivers that are in the dirt division aren't even on a team. I mean, you have Rebecca for Blue Strata, Suako for Riptide, Fidel for JSR, along with Damien Kotexa, but those were basically it. And Riho with Full Moon Motors, but that team hardly even exists half the time. I routinely forget. And then obviously Logan represents Demon Sports, but he was the only one on that team here. But anyway, no further things to cover. On to round 4. We are here for the 4th race of the week of episode 99 here. We head to Barcelona for a 600 class race. Yeah, as it turns out, I mean, we already made the joke before. It doesn't matter the length of the track, it matters the length of the race. So 600 class can race here just as easily as 715. But also, since we're running the layout that does not take the chicane, the average lap times here are relatively... You'd be surprised how quick they are, considering the vehicles we're driving. Laps here just kind of fly by because the average speeds are really fast at a track with so many high-speed turns. So, let's just get into the race and see those lap time or lap speeds for ourselves, I suppose. Catalonia is green, and no, I mean, to further extenuate just how quick the laps here are, we even made it a 4-lap race, because it wasn't going to take much longer than 8 minutes if we did, but it was only going to take about 6 otherwise, and that's a little short for Challenge Series. Well, we are on board with JJ West, who just gave a little bit of a bump to Dedrick Schwartz heading into turn 1. And his BRZ. 3 wide with the 2 Kujikawas, who are not related. That truck, that van sticks out so much, I can't even begin to explain it. It was hard for me to even see where I was going behind it, honestly. I'm not behind it right now, but when I was, occasionally, it was difficult, so I was just like, I have to get ahead of this thing. It didn't work. JJ West kind of ruined my plans. There is one debuting car in this episode. This race, I mean. And that is the Tesla Model S of Nick Ambrose. Despite being from New York, this guy definitely gives me Silicon Valley vibes. And he is the second new driver for Black Stallion Motorsports. He's apparently rich as all hell, and yet he chooses to drive a Tesla instead of something that would actually be fast. It's not like this is just his low division car, this is his only vehicle he's brought. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, why? Why not pick something faster? You know, you got all that money, surely you could afford, I don't know, a Ferrari at least? JJ West, almost called him James Stillwell, since that guy was on the screen just ahead. This Yo is holding off the silent types for her life. Just barely able to outdrag the 2 Teslas, thanks to having an actual gearbox instead of just drive. JJ West finds himself well, no longer stuck. He was for a bit. Now he takes to the outside of James Stillwell, but he runs out of momentum over there on the outside lane. Never mind, he does not. And he now crosses over and tries to get a move on Nico, but cannot. Mishima and Cool have sort of made a bit of an escape. A bit. Lily Rose has overtaken Watanabe, but Nick Ambrose has yet to do so. It's been a good day to make debuts, clearly, as now he will get that move done into 4th place for the Tesla driver. JJ West all over the road, trying to find a lane, trying to get ahead of Ukai. That was about as easy as it gets to do. As we begin lap 3, we now see JJ West, after having just taken Unleaded and Watanabe around the outside of the final corner, which probably should go back and get that on camera, huh? Around the outside, and he uses the momentum to overtake the Ford Focus at the same time. I hate electric cars. I need there to be an engine noise. I don't care how annoying it might be, if it's the HSV-010, or if it's something pleasant to listen to like the first gen Corvette, or like the Roadster, or a V10 engine of any kind. But anything is better than literally just hearing automotive tinnitus, which is exactly what electric cars and electric engines are. I mean, you cannot change my mind. JJ West tries the outside of the debuting Tesla. Momentum not quite suffice by the looks of it, especially now when his tail starts stepping out on him and he has to catch the race car. Up camera, Nick Ambrose, now still under threat from JJ, as the Subaru BRZ will try the outside again and still fail. The inside lane, combined with the electric acceleration powers granted by the EV of this Tesla, is making that overtake way more difficult than it should be. Speaking of, Lily Rose has already made her way up to the top 2. I'm looking for that decisive move to make it a Demon Sports 1-2. Around the outside again, this time a little more successful looking. Oh, contact! Oh, JJ West is around! Ugh! At least had the ability to hit the brakes before that got even worse. JJ finally got the momentum on his side. He finally went to the outside of Nick Ambrose. But Ambrose just kinda turned out of the corner. And that's a destroyed Subaru. It's hefty damage dealt to that thing. Considering how cheap BRZs are, that's probably going to be cheaper to just replace than fix. And this was about when the, I think 615. This is when me, passing by, or passing near it, called a yellow flag. So, it actually wasn't me. It was just reported to me, and then I called it. It was reported by, I believe it was Netscape, so. Because drivers do kind of have, like, little things in their cars that, like, they basically just have a button, you know? For newer vehicles, they can kind of play off of that vehicle's, what's it called? Like, it can use that vehicle's, like, touchscreen and stuff. You know how, like, you can, like, speak to OnStar in GM models, or you'll hear, like, your GPS talk, or you can, like, make phone calls from your vehicle, and the phone call audio will play through the car speakers, that kind of thing. Some of the more techie guys use that to communicate with race control. They're not allowed to spam it, they're not allowed to talk over that radio, obviously, but they can say, oh, hey, by the way, somebody's crashed. Maybe report that as a yellow flag, blah, 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 blah. But the race was called about here. Logan Cool gets the win. Double podium for his team. Nick Ambrose has claimed, he's created a body count, and he's only been here for 1 day. Not the most amazing or impressive debut. I mean, 4th place was a good finish, but he should have been 5th. He was overtaken by JJ. He was dead to rights, and he just turned out of the corner way too early and made big contact. So that is that, I suppose. Not doing the previous intro screen, mainly because I forgot again, so we'll just intro the race from here. The roulette race heads to Trail Mountain. I am the onboard car with my 750 class S14 with that crazy LS engine in it. Funny story how I came to put that in this car. This was supposed to be my daily driver, but then, you know, stuff happened. That's a long story. Regardless, we are away. Had some problems getting off the line with the long gears and the, well, all the power made some wheel spin inevitable. So, however, that kind of put me in a position to just sort of avoid the turn 1 madness that always happens at Trail Mountain with some ease. One thing I am slightly concerned about is how far up the grid the other cars in my category start. Or that's how I was concerned about anyway. Riho is on pole, Thrasher started in the 2nd row. Yo was like really going crazy with the race. I think ironically the only race that she missed was the Dirt Division race. Well, and the Bristol Night race, but that's because she didn't even have a car in that class. Hello, Dom. Goodbye, Dom. Screeches ahead of 3 cars on one straightaway, as you do. His team owner being 1, as Brian Ice gets bump drafted by De La Cruz. Interesting. And I was right behind this already. The setup in the car felt a little off. You'll see throughout most of the race, like this. Yeah, I was not proud of that moment there. Yeah, the car was sensitive to the throttle, and this is after I made a bunch of adjustments to it to actually kind of nerf its power a bit in favor of lightning the thing. As here we have a look at what has caused 2 of the higher running cars to pit in. Eric got a little loose heading towards the tunnels, and Thrasher just did not react in time. I got ahead of Yo in the double hairpins and had all the momentum on these 2 I could ever hope for, but trying to pass through here can be risky. It's very easy for a car like mine to get unsettled through there with the elevation changes and just end up with a wrecked Sylvia. So I'm like, let me just not do that. Got ice on exit anyway in spite of that. Meanwhile, battle for the overall N-class lead. I mean, obviously. Dom DePrisco says up a move on the leading GTR-powered Lancia Delta of Riho Futaba. And I think once we got into the higher gears, Turbo Leg kind of bodied that Lancia. And then the Huracan's going to be able to brake way later, having modern vehicular specifications and, you know, not being from the 1990s. And not being originally intended as a flippin' box. That's just what the Delta is. I will hear no arguments. Basically, a Lamborghini is better than a Lancia Delta. And I don't really feel like that was any secret to anybody. I get ahead of De La Cruz. So I now only have cars in my own category left to overtake. But as Dom begins to build a lead, I was already kind of thinking to myself that was going to be quite hard. Especially when I did that, and just kind of embarrassingly drifted way offline there. This race was not my best work. that is for sure. Part of it was just not being comfortable with the way this thing was handling. Some of it, though, was absolutely a skill issue, as they would say. About a half a lap later, and I had the Lancia in my sights, but I was not close enough to even consider myself able to overtake it. A bit of late braking on my part will get me... Well, it will/did get me closer. Man, commentating a race that you raced in and commentating your perspective is really trippy. Because it's like, do I speak in first person? Do I speak in third person? Do I speak in past tense or present tense? Maybe even a bit of future tense? It's all over the darn place. Despite being four-wheel drive, Riho had not much confidence on the input of the throttle, and I will take advantage of that. She tried to squeeze him into that curb, but surprisingly my car is not that sensitive. And now with what would be about 3 laps to go, I was into second place. But Dom DeFrisco was absolutely gone about 8 seconds up the road. About a lap or so went by, and I mean, although I was catching Dom, who I think was probably just kind of controlling his pace since he had such a huge lead. I was eating into it, but with only 2 laps now to go, I kind of had this distinct feeling that it wasn't fast enough. Following lap, same story, and at this point I'd only taken about 3 or 4 seconds out of his lead, and I knew that wasn't enough. So I myself kind of slowed my own pace down a little bit and sort of accepted that I was not going to get any further than second as the race timer expires, leaving all but the top 4 with a completed race. So Brian Ice will head out of the double hairpin complex. He will grab a W. Narrowly, Yo Watanabe had the run out of the final corner. Barely loses the drag race though. Eric is just now finishing. He was defeated by De La Cruz by 37 seconds, basically, for the class victory. And that's not the only thing that's ridiculous, either. Thrasher ends up in 13th, having absolutely no pace after his incident with Eric. Eric recovered better than he did, somehow. He couldn't even get ahead of Mr. Fine Drive up there. Anatoly Pugachev won the 640 class. Not a whole lot of competition. And I believe, I'm trying to remember if this is 600 class. I think this is. But if it is, then, man. Some drivers with some really bad days here. Keith last overall in a car that should have been in the top 10-ish. Setsko 17th in a car that should have been in the top 5. Yeah, all over the place. I mean, the 640 class winner nearly got a top 10. The 600 class winner beat a 715 class car. 2 of them did. Axel down here in 18th when he should have been running right there with Kisaragi and Pugachev. Kurosawa was a 675 class car. There's just, I mean, I guess what do you expect from the roulette race, I suppose. And then, I mean, I got a spoiler alert. I don't catch Dominic DeBrisco. He was gone. Only 2 more corners left. Dominic DeBrisco's almost lapping, well, he was technically going to lap this car. But, I mean, Keith Kilgore's already at, like, coasting speeds, so he heads out of the final turn. Dom DeBrisco grabs the victory at the Trail Mountain Roulette race. I did cut it down to about 3 or 4 seconds, but it just wasn't enough. And Derek De La Cruz will convincingly win the 715 category by a lot, really. And that about does it. So yeah, I do believe that this the Roadster Touring Car is 600 class. So Alexis Oliris did win that. As funny as it would be to say that an ice cream van won, he did not. And that will wrap things up. Not much of an outro to do, so until the big milestone, episode 100, I guess. I don't even know, like, if there's anything special planned for that, or if it's just going to be another episode. I've yet to find out from anybody, or decide for myself, for that matter.